Our lucky guy is Dan Yaccarino because he's here with us on KidLit TV, and we're going to be chatting with Dan. Thanks for being with us here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes, and you didn't have a very long trip here, just a few blocks or a few subway stops
That's
to
right.
get here today.
That's right. I've lived in Manhattan for about 26 years, so I take the subway almost everywhere, or walk.
Yes, and that, yeah, I have a Fitbit to count my steps, so that's a real New York thing. But you have a few new books coming out that we'll be chatting. But before we talk about your new books, tell us how did you get into children's books?
I graduated from Parsons School of Design here in New York City. And when I first left school, I was an editorial illustrator. So I worked a lot for magazines and newspapers. I did book covers and different things like that. And about 5 years in, I met a children's book editor. And then I started to write and illustrate children's books. And that was 21 years ago.
And here it is, 50-something books later.
Yes,
you know?
that's correct. I don't even know how many.
Right.
I have to go home and count them.
And it must be something you like doing.
I love doing it. And what I try to do is tell the story visually first. And I try my best to tell the entire story visually. Because with a picture book, the pictures tell most of the story. They do most of the heavy lifting. They're conveying the idea visually. So then what I can't convey visually, that ends up becoming the text. So really it's, I'd say 60-40 pictures, words. But it's really a visual medium. I mean, very young picture books are truly a visual medium.
And your latest book, Doug Unplugged on the Farm, is very visual. I was taking a look at it earlier, and it's a second in possibly a series. It follows Doug Unplugged. Doug is a robot.
I have two children, they're teenagers now, and over the years I've seen how they increasingly use computers to do their homework and research. And when they were younger, we would go to the library, we would talk to the librarian, or we'd go out and get this information, go to a museum or different things like that. But I see that now that they're getting older, the computer is more dominant in their research and just their schoolwork. And I started thinking about this and how kids learn and how they gain information. And I started thinking about gaining information through experience using your senses. And so I wrestled with this idea for about 2 years. Usually ideas come to me pretty quickly and they're fully realized and I just write them out. But how would I convey this message? How would I even approach this subject? And then I started doing these little doodles of this robot. And I started trying to figure out how can I fit together, you know, this concept of this robot who's essentially a piece of technology and experiential learning. But I sort of figured it out. So it's this little robot who unplugs from this big computer and wants to go out into the world and learn using his senses. And I feel very strongly about this, and there's a sequel, and I don't think it's a message that can be repeated too many times.
Now, Doug on the Farm, now you're pretty much a city boy. So
That's
did
right.
you have to do any research about farms for this book?
Yeah, I watched a lot of TV. I watched some movies. No, I mean, I've been out in the country. I have.
You have.
I have been
You
above
actually,
14th Street.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, great. You got the Union Square Farm
That's right.
Market. That's it.
That's about as farmy as I'm going to get. Now, I love drawing animals, so it's an opportunity for me to draw animals. You know, in the first book, he lives in the city, and in the second book, they pack up and they go out to the country to visit his grandbots.
His grandpots.
That's
yes,
right.
Okay.
So I don't know where he's going after this, but like I said, I don't think I could tire creating stories about this little
one of the
character.
things I enjoyed about Doug and going to the farm were the drawings of the animals, and one of my favorites is this one with Doug and his family, and we won't say what the horse is doing here because we don't want to we don't want to give it away. We don't want to give it away.
Spoiler.
But I think one of the reasons I actually like this is because it's kind of reminiscent to more classic children's picture books, from my childhood, which was a long time ago.
They had picture books back then?
They did.
They were on a wall, right?
They were.
Painted on a cave wall.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
but so it reminded me of classic illustrations here. How do you get the word out about your books?
Well, I do a lot of emailing, and I have a blog that I post, some books in progress. And I'm active on Facebook and Twitter. And so I sort of get the word out that way. I also get a lot of calls for school visits, which I really, really enjoy.
So tell me about a typical school visit.
Typical school visit, I do 3 45-minute presentations, and the range of students are from kindergarten up to about 5th grade. And I usually like to group them with K and 1, and then 2 and 3, and 4 and 5, because the material is slightly different, and I know that the really young ones can't sit still too long. I'll do some drawing. There's usually a book sale, so I'll sign a couple of boxes of books.
That helps.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I meet a lot of really great people, so I really enjoy it. It's part of the experience of being an author, which I did not know early on. And once I got into it, it became sort of a bigger part of my career.
So what was the funniest thing that ever happened on a school visit?
Well, I was signing these books, and this little girl, I was talking to this little girl, and this little boy behind her kept saying, "Excuse me, excuse me." And I said, "Hang on a minute, wait a minute, I'm talking to her, you're next, don't worry about it, I'll get to you." And he was just very anxious, and he wanted to talk to me, and I understood that.
Because you're a star.
Well,
you're
over
a star
there,
for a day,
I'm all
right.
for Beatles,
That's it.
when I'm
That's
in school. So this little girl, I signed her book, and I spoke to her for a minute, and then she left, and this little boy came up. I said, "Okay, what is it? What is it that you had to tell me?" And he said, "I have a canker sore right here." But that's why kids are great. They just tell you exactly what's on their mind.
Dan, thanks for being with us. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
And remember, until next time, give a kid a book in any format.